Already, I'm grateful to have somebody of your stature and expertise to join us. I just wanted to provide information to patients, doctors, practitioners about orthopedics, personal and pain management. Focus will be areas, particularly personal injury, workers' comp, and even sports. We wanted to get your input regarding that to begin with. Okay?
Sure, sure. I'm putting notes together. I got some new data about number of accidents, the kind of accidents in California, particularly. And
Good. Any information would be good. We'll put it on. So maybe to introduce to the audience, if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and your interests.
oh, that's great. Yeah, I'm a trial attorney, and I've been doing this for a few decades, and I love it. I love going to work every day. Every day is different. It's exciting. So many times it's unpredictable. I got a great team of people to work with. We do what most trial attorneys do. We do contingency. So I have never billed a client. I wouldn't know how to even do that. We engage mostly in personal injury cases, and most of them are car accident cases, but it could be any kind of injury. We just signed up a case in a public school where a child was really beat up by other children. And so it's not a class, it's a violent assault. But the school had plenty of notice. The school knew what was going on. There's a fractured spine out of it, of an 11-year-old girl. There's a video that was taken of it. So that's not a classic motor vehicle case, but it's a case that cries out for some kind of justice, and those motivate me as well. It turns out my approach is a little bit different. I think you understand this, Dr. Momani. I come from a long heritage of chiropractors in my family. So growing up, I really didn't understand and appreciate the difference with chiropractic is unique in the healthcare ecosystem. And ultimately, when I passed and became a lawyer, it became pretty obvious to me that chiropractic was radically underserved by trial attorneys for one good reason. Trial attorneys, as a rule, not all the time, don't like chiropractors. They prefer they prefer something more aggressive, more surgically oriented, more drug oriented for a bigger case. And that's perfectly rational. Most people don't want the surgery right away, as you well know. And today, modern medicine is embracing the least invasive procedure. And we're seeing some tremendous work in your office, particularly, where you'll look at a patient, you'll see how chronic the condition may be, how acute it may be. And you'll offer a list of options. Well, I come from the other end. Most of our clients come from chiropractic offices, and some are pretty significantly injured, and they do have to see and get medical opinions. And I strongly encourage that, because I like multiple opinions on a moderate to severe case. Simple cases are what I would call non-acute cases, or mild cases. You often don't need medical intervention. That's fine. We've had 200,000 reportable auto accident injuries in California last year. That's a significant number. And that's not including slip and falls, which is another 60 to 80,000 of those a year, mostly with older folks. Then you have pedestrian accidents, burn accidents, bicycle accidents, scooter accidents, all sorts of things going on. So we are we're in a state, especially in the urban areas, where you have a lot more of these accidents with injuries. So it keeps folks like you and me quite busy with huge populations, a lot of people moving around. It's inevitable there's going to be that kind of physical contact. I also had a chance to serve on the acupuncture board, and so I learned a lot. My wife's Korean American, so she introduced me to acupuncture early on, and have a great deal of regard and respect for that. So I chaired the acupuncture board for a couple of years under the governor, and that is a huge field which many Asian Americans and now non-Asians respect and admire. And again, these are more modest caregivers, and but ultimately a significant percentage of patients that are especially in moderate to severe accidents wind up having to get orthopedic evaluation. There's just too many things going on. The damage is too acute. The condition is not improving. And that's what chiropractors, GPs, general practitioner, medical doctors, and acupuncturists must do. There's a certain point and a certain level that if you're not getting patient improvement in a reasonable period of time, you got to get a second opinion. The law and ethics requires that. So consequently, we work hard with our chiropractic community, acupuncture community. That it's crucial. MRIs, for example, are the gold standard. They're non-invasive. They're relatively prices are good. It's a great standard for patients to have in their background, to have an MRI following a moderate to severe injury. And then with that, a good orthopedist can look at that film, can actually see the images, and pretty promptly nowadays. So the chiropractor is given a report along with the attorney, and we can get an idea. And what's different about medicine that I really appreciate from your point of view is that we're discovering that medical doctors are offering a list of options. It used to be, I don't know, decades ago, hey, this guy needs surgery, period. Let's get him scheduled. Medicine's grown tremendously, particularly in the Iraq, Afghanistan wars. We learned so much in the field, and there's so many newer procedures that are healthier with much better outcomes. So that's me. It's something that's a bit unusual. I call myself a chiropractic attorney. Most trial attorneys don't know what chiropractors do, don't particularly care. So I do continuing education for them. I teach at the schools. I write books. I write articles. And so I find myself working with chiropractors most of the time.
I appreciate that. Yeah, over the years, I have come to appreciate the work that chiropractors do. I think they do excellent care in providing treatment and helping reduce, especially neck and back injuries. And over time, I've grown more and more grateful of their services and appreciative. Also, sometimes I agree with you that acupuncture is seen as being questionable treatment, but honestly, we've seen great results with acupuncture. I myself use it for treatment of maladies, and so does my family, and we've been very happy. And I can tell you that in instances, it can actually, a combination of chiropractic, physical therapy, and acupuncture can avoid the need for surgery. Many patients come in with a large disc herniation, where if they go to an aggressive surgeon, they would recommend surgery. But I think if they're patient and they get the chiropractic, acupuncture, particularly in my experience, when there's radiculopathy involved, works magically. And then sometimes we do an epidural injection, which can help the pain. And with these, we can manage the pain and get it to a level that the patient is satisfied and they've avoided an operation. So I'm a big believer in that. Just some general questions. What are some of the challenges that you face in your practice?
Well, we're in the personal care business. In a sense, unpaid therapists, because most folks don't have experience with attorneys most of the time in their lives, let alone a sudden, violent, unexpected accident. So there's a shock period that they have to get used to their new environment. They have to get used to seeing doctors, the pain, controlling the pain. Their lifestyle's been upset. Sometimes their work is upset. These are serious issues here. And a firm that's not sensitive to that is not going to be a very effective law firm. So that's the first challenge, is what I call empathy. We have to have deep sense of empathy for the patients. And sometimes they may sound harsh on the phone. Sometimes they're scared, they're panicked. We actually have one of our designated coworkers. We call them a supportive emotional response specialist. So we basically, people want to be heard and they want to be understood. So the complexities of the insurance, you just can't give a stark naked trial lawyer approach, this, and this. And you just have to be able to hear the pain and deal with it. and give them hope. So that's the first thing. The challenge is listening, serving the patient, and understanding that their life has been turned upside down. And that's the first challenge. And then secondly, um, reputation's terribly important, and insurance companies know that. Insurance companies are smarter, bigger, richer, more powerful computers. They know more about us than we know about ourselves. Frankly, we're lawyers, doctors are profiled aggressively by the National Crime Insurance Bureau. That's an adjunct of insurance carriers. Some 400 insurance companies pay billions into that annually to track every single personal injury claim in America. And so this idea that we think we have some privacy, not too much. Insurance companies know about your entire injury history. They know about your psychological profile. They know about lawyers, which ones go to court. They know who the billboard attorneys are. I like to throw, pebbles at them because billboard attorneys are massive phone bank systems. They will the people will drive down the freeway and half the signs they see is personal injury attorneys, and people that have an accident, they see that phone number, they call them, and they don't get an attorney, they get a call center because there's too many calls coming in for that a level of TV, radio, and billboard advertising. And so you're not calling a law firm, you're actually calling a call center, usually in Iowa, because the accents in Iowa seems to be working in most of the country, so I've been told. And the Iowa call center will have a list of questions to vet the case and to see if you got a decent case or not. And so you may think you're talking to a legal assistant. You're not. You're talking to a person that's reasonably intelligent, but says, well, when was your accident? Where did you get hurt? Were you at fault? Did the police show up? Did you go to the hospital? Basic questions. And, what kind of insurance do you have? And then it is screened by somebody in the law firm. They're recommended. It's like a conveyor system. Bad case goes in this direction. Good case goes in that direction. So the billboard attorneys have a very sophisticated approach, but it's like the Chinese fleet off the coast of Argentina with 500 boats fishing for or trolling for squid. This is actually happening right now in Argentina. So the Chinese fleet would literally denude the entire seabed of squid and ecologically leave havoc and ruin. So the Argentine Navy, and this is happening all over the world, came out and started shooting at the boats because they were encroaching on Argentine territory and water. So that's the same kind of approach. It's a massive telephonic operation to find the good jewels out of the PI case. So they get 100 cases, they might take 20. 80%, sorry, we cannot help you. Sorry, thank you for calling, but this is something we cannot help you with. But they're looking, and it's like panning for gold. They're looking for the gold nugget. So most of the stones that you see in the river, and you're looking for the gold, it takes a lot of work to find the good ones. Once they find a good one, maybe they'll get a multi-million-dollar case, and it's worth the entire cost of the enterprise. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not for me. And people that go to the billboard attorneys are not going to get that personal loving care that they deserve, in my opinion. But the competition among the billboard attorneys is just hilarious, and it's kind of fun watching that. But it's not good for the name, the reputations. Not good for a lot of doctors. It's way too mechanical and not specific enough to each patient. So that's some of the challenges we see.
So how has this leads to my next question. How has the environment in treating personal injuries changed? Because I do agree with you. 20 years ago, if I drove around, I didn't see any signs, and now you go down the freeway and you see multiple billboards with attorneys advertising. And so how has that changed? And I wonder, how has the approach of insurance companies changed with the fact that they know that this is now a highly advertised and promoted business?
Yeah. Insurance companies keep track of every lawyer and if they've ever been to court or not. That's number one. You don't have verdicts. You don't have a history of going to taking the case to the extra length. Insurance companies know that. They know which attorneys are settlement attorneys. There are even law firms that only settle cases, and the cases that need to be litigated, they refer it up. There's a large number of them. They do advertising, but they will never try a case, ever, because it's not part of the protocol. Trying a case is literally 40 times more effort than it is settling a case on the average. So when you have to try a case, you got to file a lawsuit, $600. You got to serve the defendant. You got to do lots of written questions under oath back and forth. And you got to have depositions, and then you got to have court appearances, and you got to have mediations. So the time per case is substantially more on trying a case, but it's worth more money. So some specifics. We have to file lawsuits in about 30% of our cases. Yeah, 70% settle. That's a good thing. But if you only litigate 5%, they know that. If you only litigate a small number, if you've never been to court, you can't, it's public record. And if the lawyer's never been to court, they know that. And they know they're pushovers. They know they can offer a low amount of money, and this lawyer's desperate to turn over the case and get the next one in. And that's part of the problem that consumers don't know. They don't know that. There are, on the good side, there are several outstanding blue chip big law firms that do litigate. Not big where there's hundreds of attorneys, but maybe a dozen or so. And they get verdicts. And those of us in the industry, we see and we know who the lawyers are that go to court and the lawyers who don't go to court. And that's something that is well known not only among ourselves, but among insurance companies. They keep stats on that. It's all public record.
So I'm interested. I know you do a yearly course.
Mm-hmm.
Is the course intended for chiropractors, acupuncturists, medical doctors? Can you tell us a little bit about your course, and maybe we can put up the information so interested parties may be able to register for your course?
Well, we do seminars all over the state. We have a big one coming up in Long Beach. It's lunch.
Yeah.
We got a sponsor, so we're having at Lucille's a $10 barbecue. I want the doctors to pay something, so it's going to be a barbecue, 2 hours, and it's for continuing ed. Everybody's busy. Doctors are super busy. But you got to get, I don't know for medical, but the chiropractors got to get 24 hours a year or something like that. It's a lot of hours. They have to prove that they've been to a seminar to learn something new. And that's true for attorneys. It's true for all professions in California. So to keep yourself fresh and abreast. So I teach a lot. I teach at the local chiropractic colleges, pro bono. I teach, we do seminars. We did Stockton 2 weeks ago. So we're all over the state. I like traveling. I like seeing the doctors face to face. Not everything has to be on Zoom. And that's what we're fighting. It's so easy to do everything on Zoom, and it's been a blessing for my law firm, no question about it. I don't want to go to San Bernardino to have a 15-minute hearing, wait 2 hours, and have a 15-minute hearing, come back to Orange County. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, that's like an entire half a day or more. So you can do the same thing on Zoom, makes much more efficient sense. But when you're really talking about teaching a course 2 hours about some fundamental techniques or litigation issues to chiropractors, acupuncturists, face-to-face is much better because I like the Q&A. I like the persona. So COVID and Zoom has kind of taken us away from that, and we're contrarians. And sometimes folks are real comfortable. They'd rather stay at home and watch Netflix. And I totally get it. Our culture has shifted to a degree where people would rather not go out as much. And I think we need to go out. I think we need to socialize and physically touch and see each other. So that's our approach.
Register for your course, or how do we find information so we can
show you? So, for example, we published a book last year, and I'm very excited. It's a bestseller on Amazon. And it's the Intelligent Chiropractor's Guide to Survival. And it's conversational. It's only 200 pages. And we talk about the fundamental issues that chiropractors find on a daily basis, particularly trying to navigate through the personal injury field. We have a website, steeleisner.com, STEEL, Eisner, EISNER.com. On that website, we've got hundreds of forms that acupuncturists and chiropractors can use. That means from 80 activities of daily living, measuring chronic injuries, getting feedback, Os-Wesley forms to determine the level of pain that the patient is in. Particularly important is traumatic brain injury questionnaires. These are tools that I want the doctors to use, and I just give it away for free and for fun. We also teach them how to make it a PI attorney pay you what they owe you. So I give them a 3-step process of how to make sure the attorney wakes up and treats the doctor fairly. We have forms for insurance companies, make sure they honor and respect and pay the med pay. So this is on our website, and it goes on extensively. I have a newsletter that I put out twice a month called the PI Email Alert that I edit myself, and I discuss the significant jury verdicts involving chiropractic or acupuncture testimony. I talk about ones that win and ones that lose, and we learn something from each case, not my cases alone. We also advertise forums or seminars, so that's a PI email alert. It's real easy, steeleisner.com, and on that website you'll be able to subscribe to our newsletter. So I probably I have more subscribers, chiropractic acupuncturist subscribers, than probably any attorney in the state, because that's what I've done my entire life. So I have a pretty good audience that listens and wants that. So we do that. We do the big one, the 8-hour seminars, usually in November. We're going to have it this year at Disneyland. That's always fun because doctors bring their families, the kids can go play across the street, and they got plenty of time to get the tickets, and we feed them breakfast and lunch, and it's just a great deal. We found a really nice location across the street from Disneyland. But we do smaller seminars and a big one once a year because it's kind of fun. It also keeps me in touch. It keeps us a little bit humble. We learn things all the time. When we are forced to put a seminar together, we have to do a lot of study and updating and engagement.
So I'm a young chiropractor or acupuncturist and want to get myself involved in taking care of people injured in personal injury cases. What is your advice for somebody just getting started?
Oh, that's good. But I was working on an outline dealing with that very question this morning because it's an everlasting question. I strongly suggest to doctors that are young and just starting out, or docs who've been around the block for a long time and maybe thinking of retiring in a few years, that always welcome a personal injury case. Here's a glaring fact. Most patients that see a chiropractor don't know their doctor can also do accident cases. They go in for hip strains or back problems or headaches or even nutritional advice, maybe extremity injuries. But the chiropractor never tells them, oh, by the way, I've also been certified and I have the training and the education to do personal injury cases. So when they have that accident, they don't make the connection. So I say, right there, start educating your patients, because most of your patients are not going to be accident victims. Most of them are going to be, gerontology or sports injuries and, the kind of stuff that you want to balance practice. I worry for the chiropractor that does 80% PI. They don't have a balanced practice in my view. Then they're too attorney dependent. You don't want to be attorney dependent. So I also suggest that you find a pro chiropractic attorney that actually understands your profession, understands the training, the kind of education that's required, and the philosophy. Chiropractic has a strong philosophy justifying its existence that was created over 100 years ago. So attorneys, I will tell the chiropractor, make sure that the attorney you're working with not only understands chiropractor, but actually has one. Because every human being that I know of is going to have acute back problems throughout their life from time to time. And I think that's also true. And so what you can deal with it, you can take a lot of pills, or you can, get therapy, or you can see chiropractic. But it's funny to me that a trial attorney that does a lot of personal injury work will have chiropractors that he works with, but he himself has never seen a chiropractor. So how can he understand what the utility of that is? And we know now that a majority of people in California, for all personal injury MVAs, motor vehicle accidents, a plurality, most people see a chiropractor, and then it's a medical doctor, because they see the risk level of seeing a chiropractor is much lower than it is seeing a medical doctor.
Right. Many injuries can resolve honestly with chiropractic and do not actually need an assessment by an orthopedic doctor or even a general doctor.
Right.
As they provide the initial assessment. They're very skilled, especially with the assessment of spinal injuries and the treatment. And I think honestly, I see cases where the pain has gone away and they come and see me. I basically really have nothing further to offer.
That's really tough. That's part of the timing. And again, you're not going to see any patients from me that just have very minor concerns, and hopefully 6 visits will get it done. I call those patients to the chiropractor. Don't even put it on a lien. Don't get a lawyer. Just make it cash or take the med pay, or But it's something that should not require a full team approach. Now, in the moderate to severe accidents, particularly considering their pre-existing medical history or their age, that's a whole nother deal. And I strongly encourage, for moderate to severe accident, we do the basic procedures and at least get one opinion, because that's competent. You don't want to be engaged in treating a patient where you don't know what's really going on with them. For example, if there's any patient goes to the urgent care, I'm thinking they better get a second opinion from a medical doctor, because that urgent care doctor had to write down something. And it's alarming how many doctors will not read the ER notes. They have to read the ER notes. So I've solved that problem. I get the ER notes and I send it to the chiropractor for free and for fun. I say, here it is, have a look. There may be something about a traumatic brain injury there that the patient never even told you, because patients themselves can be poor historians. Or I'll always send the police report to the doctor. I want them to know what kind of an impact, the angle of impact, what the police thought of it. And there's a lot of good demographic information on that police report. And also pictures of the vehicle if it's an MPA. I want them to see what the patient went through. It's not perfect. You know what I'm getting a lot of nowadays are videos. Thank God for Elon Musk. I get videos from a Tesla, and they weren't even involved in the accident. They just saw the accident in front of them. And the person will stop by and say, hey, I have a video. What happened? I'll give you a copy of it right now. So videos has transformed trial work tremendously, because it's much more authentic, not just he said, she said, not just hearsay.
Right. I have to make a comment. I've made that before in my video. If you're injured and you're seriously injured, I think over time, what I've observed is probably a mistake to go to an urgent care. I would highly recommend going to the ER. The problem with urgent care is they don't do a thorough eval.
No.
They do x-rays. They miss many diagnoses. Many times they'll put a templated normal exam, and later, if the case gets litigated, the attorney points out, well, the exam was completely normal, but you point out to them that they just pushed a little button and documented a normal exam. Many times these practitioners, there is a nurse practitioner or PA. The nurse practitioner may be working full-time in an OBGYN office. They're not familiar with musculoskeletal injuries, and they miss the diagnosis. Whereas I think if you go to the emergency room, you're much more likely to get a skilled physician and a more thorough evaluation.
There's no question. The problem is when people are hurt, they want to get attention. Many emergency rooms are crowded. You have people being rolled past you with terrible wounds. And so the emergency room can be very, very discouraging. I know that myself personally. I mean, I'm just horrified, and with the wait time. So urgent cares are convenient, but the you're going to get 1/10 of the care. And so when that happens, but you see, I can't control that, and so most people don't know that. And you know what? You look at the urgent care, and that's why you got to get them to an MD right away. And that's another part of it. If I got symptom, you mentioned that you get patients maybe at the end of the chiropractor's care, and they're 90% asymptomatic. Well, what are you going to say? It's a strange conversation you're having. Well, I'm glad you're in my office, but you're responding well. And the patient says, well, the doctor told me I got to come, and there's not much you can write. So my philosophy, get them in within a month. I want livid symptoms. I want something the doctor can see and make an assessment about future treatment and maybe a prognosis here. And if necessary, the patient will return. So my philosophy is, first thing I do, my philosophy is that with every single case I get and my partner gets, we call the referring chiropractor on the telephone, this guy right here, or we text to their cell number, and we say, we give them a rundown. It's called a 2-minute rundown. I don't want a conversation about their babies and their beautiful house and how their life is going. They're too damn busy. I know that. I simply say, look, the liability looks good. We got a police report. It's a T-bone accident, 2 witnesses. That's as much as a doctor needs to know. And I said, on the insurance side, this is important. Looks like it was a Tesla vehicle that hit you. That's probably $1 million insurance. And the patient yourself has $100,000 with $5,000 med pay. Well, that just tells the chiropractor his risk is quite low. And I said, look, they did go to an emergency room, and I'm not sure what happened there, but I'm going to send you the records. I'm going to pull those myself. So you don't need to worry about getting them. And I would suggest, and I tell them the first time within 24 hours, I talked to the doctor, we got to get him over to a good doctor. This patient's reporting a lot of pain. Maybe a pain specialist is appropriate. Don't worry. He's not going to steal your patient. Don't worry. He's not going to denigrate chiropractic. Don't worry. He's going to just see the patient one time. Don't worry. He's not going to stick needles in your patient. I got to tell that to chiropractors because they are worried that there's going to be a knife-happy MD out there cutting up their patient, never seeing the patient again, stealing the patient. It happens. And if that ever happens to me, and it doesn't happen very often, I have a list of several hundred medical doctors in California and a color code. I finally got a great facility in Shasta County. That took a long time, all the way down to El Centro from Lake Tahoe to Monterey, and all points in between. I have it divided up regional. It's my personal list. I don't send it out. And so I have medical doctors that I have on a reputational basis, and I listen to the patients. What was the outcome? How long did you have to wait in the waiting room? How kind were they? Did you ever see the doctor? Was it only PAs? And so this is stuff that I need to know, because if the patient's experience is bad because Shawn Steel made a recommendation to see a marginal MD, I'm in trouble. Nobody's happy with me. The chiropractor's not happy. The patient's not happy. So I have to keep track. My brain's not smart enough. I have to have a physical count of several hundred medical doctors in California. DOs too. There's some good DOs out there as well. And so you don't want to be dependent on one group at all, because groups are changing. Doctors change. Some really good medical doctors, you know what they do, Dr. Mohammadi? They retire. Why would they do that? Or they leave the state. It really, really pisses me off. Great doctors that I've known. Anyhow, I think it's fun to work, and I enjoy what I do. And it's hard to make good relationships.
I would say that, again, maybe rather than going to urgent care, I think you're better off to going to a chiropractor if you know one, because they know how to document the injury, document all the injuries, and make a valid report. Whereas if you go to an urgent care, they're not going to do an adequate exam and not document all the injuries.
That's what I would tell every single person in California before they have an accident. Go to your doctor first, even a GP. GPs I'm not real excited about because they don't see many auto accident cases. The
Right.
old protocol used to be before the specialist came in, the GP would look at the patient saying, yeah, okay, fine. I'm sorry your muscles hurt. It'll go away, but I'll give you some muscle relaxant. See me in 2 weeks. Oh my God. That was worthless. It's now better, but I would have in a perfect world, the patient see a doctor that does injury care and start off with that. But many times they don't know. They haven't seen a doctor in years. They're perfectly healthy, and there's this big urgent care center there, and they'll probably give them some drugs, and then they'll figure it out.
And finally, let's say I got in a car accident and I really don't have a doctor and decide I need treatment and I'm getting not much help from my insurance company and I decide to seek an attorney. How do I find a good attorney? Do I look at the
Yeah,
billboards? Do I look up where do I find a good attorney?
that's a great question. Of course, the billboard attorneys are doing everything they can, and I think a lot of people look at that think it's a joke, and I think largely it is. How do you find a good attorney? Well, I say when you shop around for an attorney, it's like shopping for shoes. You don't put on the first pair and say, hey, I'm buying it and I'll leave the shoe store. No, you try many different shoes. Now, I'm not suggesting you try many different attorneys, hire, fire, but look around, talk to your, um, but here's the good news. 80% of the patients that have car accidents get care first before they talk to an attorney. So right there is the inflection point where doctors will be helping out. Many doctors are loath to make any referrals. They just don't want to get into that, but they should do that, or otherwise they're going to the 50% odds, in my view, that as I've analyzed it, they're going to get screwed by a trial attorney that doesn't like or respect them and doesn't want to pay their bills. So I get that part. The other is talk to your friends. And then if you hear about an attorney, look them up online. At least look at their website. I mean, it's all fluff and it's buttery, and I try to make my website nice and attractive. But you look for some hard facts about that. But I think when people are out there on their own, they got to do the research. And inevitably, what happens is that I get a fair amount of cases from people that fire their billboard attorney and they've heard about me through their doctor. And then they said, yeah, this guy's not returning my phone call. He doesn't think it's very important, or I can't get through. I've never talked to the attorney. By the way, billboard attorneys, you'll never talk to ever unless it goes to trial. And even then, a large percentage of them never go to trial. And they just refer it out to a trial law firm that actually goes to trial. So we get a lot. We get those cases as well. It's America. We get a lot of choices. Try to make a rational choice. Try to do your own research. Look up people online and see what their ratings are. I mean, sometimes I hate Yelp. I'll get an angry person. I had a girlfriend of a client that didn't think he got enough money. He was perfectly happy, but the girlfriend went online. What are you going to do? That's life. That's life. But do your own research, and at least if you got 2 or 3 interesting leads, call them. Call them, and that conversation on the phone will pretty much give you an idea if they're real or not, if they're sincere or not. And I think that's probably the best test. That's how you do your due diligence.
Very good. Well, I appreciate your time. Hopefully, I can invite you back again to spend time with us. And I certainly would want to sign up for your courses and get myself better educated.
You're very modest, and you don't need to be. You've been a very successful and are a successful orthopedic surgeon. You run a good shop. You've always been responsive, and I always get good reports from patients because I do check. I send them. You don't even know this. I don't think many attorneys do this. I send a piece of mail to my clients, snail mail, and also internet. But I send a piece of hard copy mail to my clients every 2 to 3 weeks for the life of the case. And many times I ask them, how was that experience you had with that medical doctor? And then I give them a questionnaire. You don't even know this. So I keep track of the patient's experience that they have with the chiropractor and also with the medical doctor. And it's fascinating, the results I'll get on that. And they like to be engaged. They'd like to know that I care, that I want to see what their experience is. And it takes a little extra work, but for me, it's well worth it.
Very good. Well, I appreciate your confidence and a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, Dr. Mohamani. Thank you very much.